Here's how I built my credit to 817 as a girl who lives alone, travels solo, and loves shopping. Welcome to Finance with Mel. Let me break it down exactly how I did it step by step. Step 1, skip the store cards. I know they're tempting at checkout, but the APR is trash and you don't need them. You only need 2 to 3 cards that are solid to build. Step 2, always pay on time. And here's where I used to get confused. Your due date is when you actually owe the payment. Your statement date is a few days later, and that's what gets reported to the bureaus. If you pay and then swipe again before the statement closes, it looks like you still owe a ton. Step 3, keep your utilization low. Under 10% is good, but I like to stay closer to 3%. Step 4, don't close old cards. I know it's tempting, but your credit history is gold. Closing accounts will actually drag your score down. Step 5, check your credit often. Seriously, it doesn't hurt your score, so you can check as much as you want. I use Credit Karma, and honestly, I check it more than my email. Doing these little things change everything for me. It's how I qualify for better apartments, travel without stressing, and buy myself nice things. And in my next video, I will share my favorite cards that actually help me travel for free.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Profit Pulse, where we make money simple, smart, and stress-free. Today, we're breaking down something everyone uses but few truly understand: how money really works. We're talking credit, interest, and inflation, the 3 forces that quietly shape every financial decision you make. Ever wonder why your credit score matters? How interest builds or eats away at your money, or why things cost more every year? By the end of this video, you'll see the entire system clearly and know how to make it work for you, not against you. Let's decode money the easy way.
You want to know one of the best credit secrets that they could teach in school that they definitely aren't teaching to help boost your credit score as well as your credit limits? The rule of 33. The rule of 33 is 3 days before your credit card reports, the reporting date, you should pay your credit card balances down to 3%. Why? Because by doing that, you're going to lower your risk factor, lower your utilization, and both of those things are going to boost your score. Now, I teach people to pay their credit cards to 0 every single week, but you should always have at least 1 or 2 cards reporting at least 3% utilization. That will help to boost your score and keep your risk factor nice and low, which increases your approval odds and will help you get higher increased credit limits on any future cards you go after. You want to learn more? Make sure you hit that follow button or check out the 700 credit class.
I was never taught financial responsibility, and at 25, I accumulated $12,000 in credit card debt. And now at 27, I'm completely credit card debt free, and my credit score went up 200 points. So here's everything I've learned along the way that wasn't taught to me as a child, and I had to learn when I put myself in this hole. So number 1, credit cards are a resource. You should not be using a credit card unless you have that money in your account to pay it off every single month. I understand that there's situations like emergencies, whatnot, but I got into the trap of thinking that my credit card limit was money that I would have. I thought that I could spend $3,000 and I would just be able to pay it off no problem. Once you start racking up those numbers, you're only paying off the minimum and you're accruing interest. You are going to put yourself deeper and deeper into that hole. However, I look at credit cards as my resource because I use Capital One. It's one of my favorite credit cards right now, where I use my credit card for certain spendings and I earn back points through traveling, through Capital One shopping, but now I'm sure to pay that off. If you are struggling with debt, I highly suggest that you lock your credit card so you're unable to spend on it. I locked my cards, I stopped spending on them, and I focused on the avalanche method, which is my next tip. So you can either use the avalanche method or the snowball method to pay off debt. I personally like the avalanche method because interest rates on credit cards are disgusting and they will get you. So what I did was I had 2 different credit cards open. So I transferred one of my highest interest debts to a no interest credit card that allowed me to pay it off within 15 months. I paid this off in 12 months. Now with my other card, it was still high interest. So I focused on the avalanche method of paying the max amount possible to the high interest credit card and paying off the no interest credit card slowly. I just wanted to get rid of it, so I chose the avalanche method. Number 3, you need to learn how to live under your means. I got caught up in this life where I thought money came back to me and money did this. I was not working hard enough for that money to come back to me. I was being irresponsible. I was living above my means and doing things that I shouldn't have been doing to put myself in a good financial place. When you have credit card debt, you need to revert back to living under your means and paying off as much as you can. So I learned to be a minimalist. I stopped the overconsumption. I would use products all the way until they were empty. I wouldn't have multiple of the same makeup products. I wouldn't go out and buy clothes for an event. I was wearing the same clothes I had, and I took like a year off shopping. I did not shop for anything. I lived so below my means because my priority was to pay off this credit card debt. That is so hard in the era of overconsumption. If you struggle with this, I urge you to get off social media and realize you don't need everything that they're selling to you on their Amazon storefront. Number 4, say no. Say no to plans. You're gonna have to say no to vacations. You're gonna have to say no to that $1,500 trip up to the mountains. I know it sucks, but think about the fact that this is just a year or two of your life, maybe in a couple months, and you will never have to go through this again once you pay it off and you become responsible. Now, with that being said, one of the things that I tried to do in the beginning of paying this off was work on savings at the same time I was paying off my debt. I don't recommend you do that. Now I've learned to pay off your debt because it's not a flex to have thousands of dollars in a savings account when you have thousands of dollars in debt. So what I've done now that I am completely debt free is that I have switched all of my savings account to high yield savings accounts where I accrue, I think it's 4.6% APY. So I'm accruing interest every single month for my balance in there. Now I have multiple different savings accounts. I have my 401 and my Roth IRA through work. So that's already taken care of somewhere else. Then I have my standard checking account, which is where my deposits come in, where I'm paid. I have a separate checking account, which is for my auto expenses. These are student loans. This is rent. This is utilities. I separate out that money right away every single time I get paid. Then I have 3 savings accounts. One of them is an emergency for, God forbid, any emergencies, job loss, whatever, 4 to 6 months worth of expenses. I have a car fund because I want to buy a car outright. I don't want a car payment. And then I have vacation sinking funds, shopping sinking funds. So doing all of this, the emergency fund is your safety net. The car fund and the other sinking funds are basically already putting money aside every single week. So when I want to go on that expensive vacation, when I want that expensive treat, whether it's a bag, clothes, I already have the money there for it. I'm not pulling out my money from my paychecks because I don't want to live paycheck to paycheck. I want my money to earn me travel points. I want my money to earn me more money. You have to be smart with your money to make it in this world, and that was something I was never taught. So I hope that this helps someone else, and I hope that it reminds you to never accrue credit card debt because it is one of the dumbest things that you can do in your life.
Inflation is unquestionably the #1 topic in this election, and I think people just fundamentally misunderstand what it is, why it spiked, and why life is still so expensive. So we're going to talk about it right now. At its most basic, inflation is how fast prices are going up. I think the biggest misunderstanding about inflation is that inflation does not equal affordability. People say, oh, inflation is under control, but why are prices still so high? It's because these two things are not the same. The truth is that inflation is actually a good thing as long as it's at the right percentage. That means that the economy is healthy and growing. Pretty much every economist agrees that 2 to 3% inflation is ideal, and right now our current inflation is 2.5%. So we no longer have an inflation problem, we have a cost problem, and I'll explain the difference now. At the peak of inflation, we were at 9%, which is way too high, and it jacked all the prices up for everything, and now we're down at 2.5% again, but that means prices are still going up year over year, 2.5%. They never actually went back down. Prices going down is called deflation, which is actually very bad for the economy because it means the economy is shrinking rather than growing. Inflation at the appropriate level is actually an indicator of a healthy, growing economy. Deflation is the opposite. Okay, so now that we covered the basics of inflation and deflation, let's talk about how all this happened. We need to go back to the pandemic to talk about where this really started, and most of the causes in the beginning were supply chain issues. At its most basic, supply chain refers to the creation of products at their point of production and then moving that product to the point of sale. When the pandemic happened, moving products from the point of production to their point of sale became dramatically more difficult and dramatically more expensive. So when the prices went up on them to produce and move their products, they raised the prices on you to cover that shortfall. And on top of that, demand for a lot of products went way up, and they just could not meet that demand in the moment. So demand went up, supply went down, and got more expensive. That means there's just going to be higher prices across the board. So that was the beginning of pandemic-era pricing, and the problem is, it didn't go away. Pandemic-era pricing didn't change because after the pandemic ended, people were still willing to pay those higher prices, so companies just didn't change the price. And this pricing model resulted in record high profits for corporations. The truth is, corporations are going to operate in a way where they maximize their profits. That's the basis of free market capitalism. So if people are willing to pay their prices, they're going to keep charging them. So it leads to a very important question that's fundamental to solving this problem. Why can they do that? And the answer is extremely simple. Deregulation. At its core, deregulation is the lack of federal oversight or any kind of say into how companies operate in the free market. Now, there are all kinds of regulations across the federal government in all different sectors. There's healthcare regulations, there's environmental regulations, there's workplace regulations, but what there really isn't a lot of is pricing regulations. It's important to know that Trump loves deregulation. And look, deregulation isn't always bad. It can increase efficiencies and reduce costs and all these kind of good things, but it also can be very risky and lead to situations like today where there's absolutely no control over companies price gouging people, and situations like 2008 where the housing crisis just crashed the entire economy. Those are things that could have been avoided if the appropriate regulation were in place. And that leads me to Harris, who loves appropriate regulation. She believes that there should be a mixture of free market capitalism and regulations that can keep consumers protected. Her biggest proposal is in the grocery sector, making sure that there are price protections to protect people from price gouging just when it comes to buying the essentials like food. So the key differences between Trump and Harris are Trump is a big fan of corporate power, where Harris is a fan of corporate and federal power mixed together. And look, there are other factors that affected inflation. The stimulus packages that both Trump and Biden passed during the pandemic. There was the Ukraine war, which dramatically affected the price of oil, especially in the EU. And then printing money during the pandemic also had an effect. But when it comes to things like economic stimulus, that's something that was done all around the world because it was necessary to keep the economy afloat. Without the stimulus, the economy would have absolutely gone into a depression. So this was a necessary element, as was printing money. So there were functional benefits to both of these things, and in reality, the biggest effect that still persists today is just corporate greed and price gouging. So if you're going to sit around and blame Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, then you are making a lazy argument, because this is an extraordinarily multifactorial, complicated, market-based situation that neither of them really could have done much to affect at all. The entire planet went through this level of inflation at the same exact time, at the same rate, and we recovered faster than anybody else. So if you want to point your blame, point it at corporations, not Biden and Harris. And the other truth is that Trump has no real answers to this issue. He's saying a lot of like, oh, it's domestic oil. We've already produced more domestic oil now than when he was president. All the things he's pitching as a solution are not real solutions. And his tariffs are actually going to raise prices. So Trump is not just going to magically come in and fix the problem. The unfortunate truth is that prices are going to stay high until corporations realize that people are no longer going to bear their high prices. And that won't be some universal solve. It's going to be based on the segment. So there's going to be areas where prices will stay the same. There's going to be areas where prices are going to go down, or prices are going to go up. It's going to be a mixed bag. But there is no magic bullet or magic candidate. Prices are just going to stay high for a while.
If I had a 500 credit score, here's exactly what I would do to get to a 700 credit score in 3 months. First, I would pull a copy of my credit report. You can use Identity IQ, My Score IQ, any credit monitoring service of your choice. I would then identify all the inaccurate personal information. This includes names, employers, addresses, and phone numbers. Your past due date is connected to you through old addresses, so I would then make a phone call to TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian and get all my old addresses removed. I would then go back to that same credit report and identify my negative items. This can be different across all 3 credit bureaus. I would plug those accounts in ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT to create a dispute letter to get these negative items removed. I would then attach that dispute letter to a CFPB complaint, along with a copy of my ID, proof of address, and social security card. Each credit bureau will get a different complaint, so one for TransUnion, one for Equifax, and one for Experian. I would then wait 30 days for a response. Once you get the results from your dispute, if any of your accounts came back verified, I would then follow up with the violation of debt letter for round 2. Again, filing another CFPB complaint. You'll continue this process over and over again until all the negative accounts have been removed from your credit report. If you like this done for you, click the link in my bio to sign up for credit bureau.
Credit cards work like this. Pay the minimum balance to avoid late fees. Pay the full statement balance to avoid interest. So what is interest? Interest rate is the measure of the cost of borrowing money or the cost of the carrying balance on your credit card expressed in an annual rate. So in other words, interest rate is APR, which stands for annual percentage rate. Credit cards usually have an annual percentage rate of 20 or higher, so 20% or higher. So in this case, let's say we have a 20% APR for interest rate of cost of borrowing money. Keep in mind that this is an annual amount, so annual percentage. So to get the monthly interest rate, you need to divide that by 12 months, right? So the monthly rate in this case would be 1.66% per month. So your balance is $1,000 in December 31st. To calculate the interest that you owe for that month, you simply times the balance of your end of the month balance times that monthly rate. So in this case, it will be 1,000 times 1.66, the monthly interest rate, which gives us the interest that we have to pay in addition to this $1,000 balance of $16.66. Keep in mind that when people say APR this, APR that, they're probably talking about a credit card related item, and they're talking about the annual percentage rate, and that's just the rate given on your credit card, but you have to divide that by 12 months if you're calculating monthly interest. So whenever you buy something, say your balance is $1,000, this is not the interest that you're going to pay per month. So it's not $1,000 times 20%. That's way too much, and that's not correct. It's $1,000 times this amount divided by 12 months. So you get the monthly rate. Hope that helped.
3 things you probably didn't know about money. Inflation eats your savings. If you keep $1,000 in a traditional savings account, that gives you about 1% back on interest, but inflation is 3% every single year, you're actually losing money on that savings year over year without actually ever spending a dime. Your credit score isn't just about debt. Even if you never had a credit card, being behind on rent, utilities, or medical collections can actually negatively impact your score. Having on-time payments is really important, and most people just focus on the debt that they have. Compound interest works both ways. So the same math that makes investing extremely powerful because it's money that is sitting there and growing is the same math that makes debt extremely dangerous. So a $5,000 credit card balance at over 20% and you're only making the minimum payments can double over the course of 4 years. Follow if you want more money tips explained very simply.
I'll give you one little tip right now on credit. Nobody knows this, and this is like nobody knows this. Your credit report looks at your credit cards and it says, what is the credit line on the credit card? So let's say you have one credit card and your credit line is $10,000. And let's say that you actually pay it off every month. You say, I don't hold a balance, Kevin. When I get the bill, I pay it off. Well, according to the credit bureau, you don't pay it off. Why? Because they have a trick. There's a 30-day cycle on the credit card. This is when the payment is due. But they report to the credit bureau 5 or 10 days earlier. So let's say you have a $10,000 line of credit, you put $1,000 on it, and at the end of the month when you get your bill, you pay the $1,000. You never charged any interest. You always have a zero balance. Not according to the credit report, because the credit report doesn't look at the end of the month. It looks maybe 5 or 10 days before your cycle ends, and it shows that you have $1,000 on your credit card. And that can lower your credit score. So you always have to find out, when do you report to the credit bureaus? And then make sure you make your payment before that date. That will increase your credit score, sometimes 15 points. And that can be huge. Huge when you're looking to finance a home or refinance a home or something, to use credit wisely.
Some credit people are going to hate that I'm going to expose this, but you can literally fix your credit yourself online, just like the credit repair people do. A lot of the credit repair people actually use this platform. So this is Credit Score IQ, and this is the platform a lot of credit repair people use. It gives you the whole credit report right here, and then you can even dispute by going to Dispute Hub. Once you get to Dispute Hub, you're going to click on Credit Report Review. Once you get to Credit Report Review, you're going to click on the things that you want to dispute. So I'm going to dispute this Hertz inquiry. Then I'm going to hit Start Dispute, and then you're going to select a reason. Hit Next. Hit Finish. Once you hit Finish, that added that to the dispute. Now you're going to click back to Report Review. And now you're going to add the next thing. So I'm going to add these inquiries right here. So now it says this is in dispute. Here's another account that I'm going to dispute, this Toyota. And then you're going to hit Start Dispute. There's going to be a list of reasons why you want to dispute. So now that you've added all your stuff to your disputes, you're going to generate dispute letters. Once you generate your dispute letters, you're going to have your letter for TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax. So there's 2 items on this TransUnion letter, 3 items on this Experian letter, and 1 item on this Equifax letter. So I'm going to pull up a letter. So here's the letter that it created for me. You just got to fill this stuff out yourself, and it even gives you instructions on how to fill everything out. So here's the step-by-step instructions. It tells you to write your date of birth, so add a copy of your ID, proof of address, and then it says to mail it either U.S. mail or certified. Always mail certified. Once you send your letters off, go ahead and mark as sent. On top of the disputes, you can do a bunch of other stuff on here. So this is how the credit repair people advise you. They tell you increase your credit limits, be an authorized user, step by step based off your credit report. So even if you were to increase your credit limits, it tells you which cards you should increase. So not only are you doing your dispute process on Credit Score IQ, but you're also getting the advice based off your credit report. So basically, you just became a credit repair expert by having this platform. You can use my link in the bio. It does give you a 7-day trial for $1. If you go directly to the website, it is $39.99. So I do urge you to use my link. That way you can get the free trial and you get it at a cheaper price. It's $29.99 if you do decide to keep it, which I do recommend you keep it if you plan on working on your credit.
I'm about to tell y'all step by step how you can fix your credit by yourself without a credit repair company. And no, this is not complicated because I did it. I took my score from a 433 all the way to a 700. So if I can do it, you can do it too. Okay, so first you need to go to annualcreditreport.com. You're going to pull your report from Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. Now, before you start disputing anything, we need to go shut the mouths of these big fat snitches that be throwing a rock and hiding their hand. That's LexisNexis, SageStream, and CoreLogic. They are messy and they tell on you behind your back. Go on their websites and click security free. This should not take you no more than like 10 minutes. So when you freeze them, the credit bureaus can't go back and ask them what you're disputing is true or not. So let's go. Now you need to go look at all of the negative items that's on your report. Collections, charge-off, late payments, repos, evictions, hard inquiries, all of that. And they all can get deleted. Whatever you do, please do not dispute this stuff online. It's a trap. Send a letter via certified mail. Don't just say, oh, this is not mine. You're going to have to say something like this. That same letter, you're going to mail it to all 3 bureaus. Now you need a credit builder account. You can download Self Credit Builder. And girl, you can even report your rent. Let me know if y'all need that information. Okay, but now you need to go remove the hard inquiries off your credit profile. If you have hard inquiries that you never even got approved for, they're hurting your credit score. Send an inquiry removal letter like this. Now this is a process. It's not magic, but trust me, it will happen. Now that can be a lot of work. You can skip that whole process and just get the bundle. All of the letters are already done for you. Everything you can think of is in that bundle. So if you want me to send the bundle over to you, just say the word and I got you, girl. Nobody should have a low score after this.
So Shay gave me a great, she's health, I'm wealth. So she just gave me a great suggestion. It's just like sometimes, John, you're talking over people's heads. Like this stuff that you're talking about is a normal conversation. I know you'd like to see her because she's fine as hell, so I'm just bringing her in the shot. You don't want to see me, you want to see her. That's all natural, by the way. There's no
okay, here we go.
No surgery. Okay, so she's like, sometimes you're talking over people's heads, and you're not intentionally trying to do it, but what's normal for you is abnormal for somebody else. You know, you make it plain, but what you're making plain might be a damn rocket ship. And most people just need the basics. I remember somebody that Shaitra and I both know, young 20-something young lady, actually asked me one day after hanging around with us for a while, it's like, what's a stock? And I'm proud that she said it because it took courage and all that stuff. But the fact that a 20-something didn't know what a stock was is like where we are. And so Shaitra was like, people don't assume people know like about basic things about credit. Because people living paycheck to paycheck. Okay, so is credit, sounds simple, is a credit card money? No. No, it's not. Credit card is debt. It's consumer debt. Is a credit card free money? You know, you have to pay it back. I know we're basic, but people just run up credit card balances and are like shocked that people want their money back, the credit card companies. Does a credit card charge interest? Absolutely, and you need to read the fine print. Sometimes the interest rate is on the back of the card, depending on the card, but it's certainly in the paperwork they sent you. The average credit card in America is like 26%. The average, right? It's crazy. That means like 26% of every dollar that you charge is interest, and then it compounds, right? Okay, and there are penalties. What does that mean? That means if you're late a little bit, even a day or two, they rack up another fee on you, right? Does it affect your credit? Credit cards affect your credit more than anything else because it's consumer debt, and you can get in trouble really quickly on it. And so a mortgage credit bureaus have different ways of looking at credit. So your credit report if you look at your credit report, I look at mine every week. You have a different credit rating for somebody for a mortgage than you do for a car loan, than what you do for a credit card. It's a different credit rating because it's a different formula. I'm going to do a podcast on this for Money and Wealth, so you can subscribe there and follow me there. I'm going to break this down over 45 minutes and go into great detail. But by the way, credit is a form of capital. So equity and debt, cash, money you own and money you borrow, are both forms of capital. And good debt, it's tied to something that appreciates, actually may go up in value. Bad debt is financing something that depreciates, and you should try to stay away from that as much as you can. What else did I didn't cover, Shay, that you think I need to discuss on this about credit?
Paying on the interest rates. You pay interest, or are you paying on the loan?
Yeah, so you're paying when you're making a payment. You're off if you're making the minimum payment, you're just paying on the interest. The minimum payment is not knocking down the principal. And if you had a mortgage in 2008, the reason people got in trouble is a lot of them had adjustable rate mortgages. You don't want to have anything that's adjustable rate tied to six figures. If you have 100,000, 200,000, 345,000, 500,000, no. Adjustable rate interest rates are the kiss of death. You want a fixed rate loan. But some people had a negative amortization mortgage. A negative amortization mortgage means that every payment you make, you owe more the next time. That's what that means. Negative amortization mortgage. Every payment you make, you owe more after the payment. So if your outflow exceeds your inflow, then your overhead will be your downfall. Understanding these terms, this is what makes it smart sexy is. By the way, her credit score is bigger than mine. That's what I'm talking about. She's fine and she got good credit. Right? Peace and light.
And that's how money really works. Credit, interest, and inflation simplified. Once you understand these, you stop reacting to money and start mastering it. If this video helped you see things clearer, hit that like button, drop a comment with what finally clicked for you, and make sure to subscribe to Profit Pulse for more weekly financial insights. This is Profit Pulse. Stay smart, stay steady, stay profitable.